just to
and
kind
then
of,
and that'll be the end of
that'll
it.
be his.
But Eric will come.
Eric will
and
be
just
there.
Be there. Okay.
So,
Will you do the Pledge of Allegiance?
if I can remember it. Yeah. So, yeah.
Morning.
Yeah, we'll see what happens because he said it sounds like still.
Okay, Commissioner, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. We'll start the commission meeting, Iron County Commission meeting, Monday, the 28th day of March, 2022. And we will start off. David Burton will give us a prayer, and Terry Palmer will lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Father in heaven, we are indeed grateful to Thee for the opportunity which we have to assemble here together at this commission meeting. We're grateful for the blessings that we enjoy, of the blessings of this great country in which we are able to live in. We're grateful for the blessings of freedom, the blessings of self-governance, and we're grateful for this opportunity to be here in this commission meeting and be able to conduct the business that is necessary of the county. We're grateful for this great county and for the leaders. We pray for Thy blessings and spirit to be here, that Thou will bless and guide the leaders with inspiration and guidance, that they will be able to make good decisions and be able to do those things to represent those individuals and residents of this county in a way which Thou would have them do. We pray for a blessing of civility, that there will be a good atmosphere, that there'll be a good exchange of ideas and thoughts that will be constructive and be able to be productive in the results that happen from these things. We again are grateful for all our blessings, and we pray for those that may have needs, that Thou can bless them with those needs that they have, whether it's physical, mental, spiritually, that they can receive Thy help and be able to lead productive and happy lives. And we pray for those who are less fortunate at this time in the world, those people of Ukraine, and that Thou will bless them and help them in their conflicts and suppression that they're exposed to. And we pray for the leaders of the world, that they will listen to Thee and be guided to lead in righteousness, and be sensitive to the needs of those who they have stewardship over. And we thank Thee again for our many blessings, and ask for Thy guidance and direction, Spirit, here at this time, and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, David.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can we get a motion for approval of minutes?
February 22nd.
So I had no questions. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes of the 2/22 meeting.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'll make a motion for approval of claims from payments from March 14th, 2022 to March 27th, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okie dokie. So now we'll move to departmental reports, and can we have Terry Palmer?
Oh, yes.
We'll start with him first. I just, you're okay. You can come back up. We're just excusing Mike. He's at chief, sheriff's, not sheriff,
Was it sheriff?
chief of police
Chiefs of Police, they've asked him
conference
to
to speak in St. George, though.
And it's something he's wanted to do for years.
A long time.
It's a good
yeah.
opportunity. And
on mental health, I believe he said. So we're hoping we'll get him on Zoom at the 10 o'clock meeting, but
Yeah.
we'll go ahead with our reports.
All right. Glad to be here. Well, I am glad to be here. Gives me a minute out of the field. We are extremely busy, as you can see from the paper. We'll just start on the first page, and then there's a couple other things I want to look at and talk to you. We have issued 165 building permits this year as of March 25th, last Friday. That's for this year. As of March, same date last year in 21, we issued 119. So we are up a whole bunch, almost 40. Okay, so we have been extremely busy. This month of March 25th, we've issued, just in the month of March, we issued 78 building permits. 45 of those are houses. So it's been busy, way busy. We have completed 174 reviews on 174 projects this year compared to 103 last year. So we're up over 70 reviews on projects compared to last year. We have completed 1,016 inspections this year compared to 904 last year. So you can see our numbers are still increasing and going up. It's not slowing down yet. So, and last year was a record year. We're on track right now to do a whole bunch more than last year because we've got several subdivisions that's opened up now in the county's portion that they're starting to build on. Okay, a couple of the projects we have going on, the fairground, the concrete for the bleachers have finally been poured. They have put all the anchor bolts in for the structure. They figured that was done last week, so they're hoping next week it will cure out enough that they can start the cover part. So that it'll take them a week or two to finish that up.
So will they put that up and then start on the front sidewalk and
I think
retaining? So that's up so we can install our bleachers.
Yes, I think that's the plans, is that they'll get that up, and then we have that pad and that structure ready for the bleachers to go on. I think that's the plans of right now, is that they get that up so we can get the bleachers brought over. The other shipment can come up with the rest of them, and then we can have it ready for them to start erecting the bleachers.
And May 1st, I've coordinated with the bleacher company. They're coming May 1st. So.
Yeah, and
May 2nd, I think, so Monday.
I know, yeah. Carter says they would be done in just a couple weeks on that one, and then they will move over to that other building to start putting that up as soon as that one's done. So hopefully by the end of April, both buildings will be done for us to put the bleachers up there. Newcastle Fire, I was out there last Thursday or Friday. Can't remember what day it was. It's been a long week. They have tore the fence down between the road shed and the fire station. They and Platt was out there surveying, marking building corners. So we've got that marked and ready. I can't remember if it went out to bid last week or if it goes out this week for the fire department building. So that's going to be starting on April, I want to say the 20th. I can't remember from the last meeting, but that will be starting construction middle of March or middle of April sometime on the Newcastle Fire. I think that's the biggest projects we have. If we want to look at more numbers, if we turn to that second page that we have there, it's got a comparative from this month, current month, to year to date last year. The top one is just Iron County, 35 issued in just the county portion. Year to date was 70, and then 2021 was 70. Parowan, we had 8 this month, 12 year to date, and 10 was of last year. Bryan Head, nothing this month yet because of the weather. 1 year to date on some other stuff there. So, and then last year was 2. Canaryville, we've got 2 for the current month, 3 year to date. And then Paraguna, we've got 1 issued this year. And then the last page is a fold out, just a breakdown of the numbers from 2020 and compared to 2021, what we have. Friday evening, we issued a grading permit for Appaloosa Solar. So they will start grading site. I think they have started the road work on Lund Highway. I haven't been down Lund Highway, so they started the road work there, and they've got a grading permit to start the interior grading on the Appaloosa Solar project. So they will be starting this week, breaking ground on that. So one other thing I want to do, the Utah Chapter of Inspectors held their conference the middle of February, and they give out awards. And this is a chapter award of merit presented to Iron County in appreciation of your dedicated support to the Utah Chapter ICC. Presented to Iron County. I accepted this for the commission on February 24th.
Wow.
Oh.
So I'm going to turn this over to the commissioners.
Oh.
You sure you don't want to put that in your office?
Tell me where you want it. If you want it in yours.
I
if
think
you
we
want it.
should put it in your office.
I do too.
That's what
I
I
think you ought to
think.
keep it.
Yep.
Because you're the one that earned it, you guys. So.
But I want to publicly thank, because that there is a lot of service. For my time that I've been in the past, for the time we let Lester, they recognize that Iron County, as commissioners, you guys support us as inspectors, which helps code and a lot of other professions within the state. And they recognize that. You guys, as commissioners, you've been willing to let us serve. And I appreciate that, because that helps us both in our training and all that we do to keep up with what changes throughout the year. So I just want to present that and let you know that they do recognize for the service that and the time that you guys allow us to go out and serve.
Thank you.
One last thing. Brandon Hunter will be done serving on the Planning Commission, and this will become later on the agenda. I may or may not make it back, but we have visited with Eric Cox from the Westview Homeowners Association. He serves as a volunteer firefighter, serves on many other things. Reed visited with him last week, and Eric is willing to serve on the Planning Commission and has graciously accepted that. And so I may or may not be back when we get to the board appointments, where I'm by myself today, but I would like to be back in case. If not, Reed may be here too and give you a little more insight, because he did visit with him. Eric is excited to serve there.
And he's a good man. He'll do a good job.
He's very good. We've worked with him quite a bit through the building department on concerns. I know Marilyn's visited with him on the road issue. He's worked with Bruce and Rich a lot. Very informative and very knowledgeable. He's worked with UDOT, so he understands road issues that will help on a lot of stuff. So that will come up later. And like I says, hopefully I will be back. But that's where we're at. Any other questions? Anything you need us to look at or do?
I think we're good for today.
Okay.
Thanks
All
for
right.
your efforts on the road.
Yes.
I know that's just another thing that you have to do, but
Yeah.
it's going to be nice to get that fairgrounds fixed up.
I know, and that's it. Is we have some big plans. As the commission, as the county, there's some big plans that we want, and we need to get things going. And this is the first step, I think, to helping make it a usable area, give some more seating, more stuff in there. So we're looking forward to working with that, and hopefully we can keep it moving to keep it going.
And Councilman Burton's here, and we appreciate Parowan City and their cooperation. It's been a great relationship. Appreciate you guys.
And I think we can.
What you're doing as a county.
Thank you.
And we appreciate, and I'm sure Parowan is still going to be willing to help us out to get transition, get things done, so we are all on the same board. We don't want things to fall apart. We want it to keep working and going forward. So we appreciate
We
Parowan
need some
City.
help with the power, and I think Joyce has talked to your folks, and yeah, we want to.
Yeah, just let us know.
Okay.
We're there, willing to get that transition, smooth.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Thank you. I'm going to leave this here for
Appreciate
your
it.
commission meeting today. And then I will get with you or pick it up later.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
That was well deserved.
Good.
Thank you. So,
Yes, very good.
I'm just going to leave that with that, and then we can pick up second.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
thanks.
So I see that Reed isn't here yet, so we'll go ahead with Richard. All right. Wilson, our engineer.
Commissioners. So we've been busy as well in the engineering department. We've been planning and also preparing for this upcoming summer months. So in Paraguna, Red Creek flood control ditch cleaning on 700 and Main Street between Center Street and 200 North is done. The recharge basin at the base of Little Creek Canyon was cleaned out and has hopefully started receiving water to the aquifer again. It was
How much
there was
sediment was in that, Rich?
probably about 4 feet.
Oh, really?
Really mucky.
Did you just build the banks up higher, or what'd you do?
Yes, yeah. We just kept it in that area, but it took it was a mixture of frozen and just mush. So when Curtis was working it was a little of this and a little of that, but it's now cleaned out down to the receiving base. So
Good.
that's a good thing. Parowan currently working on a grade plan with the road department for the fairgrounds parking, and also working with the Hasmeyers on their property line issues at the southeast end. In Cedar Valley, Coal Creek, we've been cleaning. We've cleaned from the Jones diversion over there across from the airport down to 2,400, almost to 3,000, and then from 3,000 to 4,800. Been working on that, working with property owners as well as just getting the channel de-vegetated where it's grown up. We'll be working further down also at the far end towards 6,600 and whatnot. We've got some.
What is Mid Valley, Rich? What
4,800?
48. So 48 is Mid Valley. Okay. Because
48.
we cleaned to Mid Valley coming from the north, so now it's
Right.
cleaned. It's cleaned. So it's cleaned all the way then.
Right.
At this point.
It's been looked at or cleaned all the way between the airport to Mid Valley, and we're prepared to work out the final details of the shared cleaning with the Cedar City, as we discussed in a meeting with the mayor a month or so ago about what responsibilities and who will be responsible for what. We look forward to having that agreement in place. One of the goals is that everything in the city will be the city's, and we won't be cleaning in the city limits any longer, which will be from, for example, from the airport to 2,400. So that's been an ongoing process. For the last several months, we've been the engineering department's been working on changing or updating the road standards throughout the county. I've worked with consultants and with doing my own research as well as stakeholders with that. That hasn't been changed significantly in the structural standards. Widths and other things have been modified, but nothing's changed since 1997. And so it's about time we look at that. And we expect that will be brought to you in April. And
So the meeting we had on the new road standards, does that go to the planning commission?
it will go.
Has it gone there yet?
Pardon me?
Has it gone to the planning
The
commission?
discussion is gone. They will be receiving the finalized version on the upcoming planning commission meeting in about a week and a half.
And they'll vote
At
on it.
which
then.
time recommendations we perceive that recommendation to adopt will be given there, and then we'll bring it to the planning commission at the end of April.
So we had Ray
To
Bullock.
the commissioners at the end of April.
Right. We had Ray Bullock and Phil Schmidt involved in that meeting. Have you heard any feedback from other contractors?
Not at this
Developers.
time. I've reached back out to both gravel pits in town.
The road department has a few issues that we need to go over. Bruce can
We
address those. Yeah,
okay, because we met with the road department.
they've been thinking about it, and we need to
Sure they have.
go over a few things.
Well, and we have some on each of those standards. I've given ourselves some wiggle rooms by stating or as approved by the county engineer, which allows us to not have numbers that are so rigid. We want to be able to look at it reasonably and say, if you've got a sieve test that's reasonably
Good.
close, we can work with you. We're not going to be rejecting loads just because of a small disagreement on our standard versus what they have in the truck. But yeah, we want to work with the road department. We recognize that this is a
Well,
is
we were
a leap
just
forward.
we were just, and Bruce will talk to you about it, but an existing road that has been tamped down is way different than a road that doesn't have anything done. It's a brand new road into a subdivision.
And that's
type
been
of
on
thing.
my mind too.
Yeah.
It certainly has, because I agree with years of compaction, that road may not necessarily need to be torn up, but we would still want to do compaction testing and things like that.
Exactly, and that's what we talked about. Yeah,
But we don't want to dig up what's working.
where you've already
We've had
tamped down for
20,
years and
30,
years.
40 years of compaction. We won't be going after those roads. I know that Justin mentioned some of his concern out to the west towards Wichita.
Yeah.
That may be the case. But other roads which are not in that good of condition or have just been mud tracks or
just brand new ones.
Well, particularly the brand new ones.
Particularly, then
on
those should be definitely
Right.
looked at with that standard.
Right, brand new ones cut through an area has no compaction, and but other roads have only been dirt tracks are not in a condition that we might that we would want to consider just doing a top dressing to. We really do want to make sure that in the future the county's protected from extraordinary costs due to catastrophic failure of the road
Well,
structure.
I appreciate you looking at this because when we accept a road, we want to make sure that it isn't going to just fall to pieces. So
Right.
we really need to look at that, and I appreciate what you're doing with that.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you. So, also at the same time, I've been working and doing some extensive field work in flood channel development setbacks, which will probably also be passing in the April commission meeting. We'll bring the final results to that for development setback to give protection to the homeowners and the developers, as well as to assist the county in being able to protect both property and life along those flood channels. So when we have, fortunately this year, and unfortunately, we will probably not have our spring problem. I wish I could say that we would have a little more water up in the hill, but we don't have all we need. But we will not have a flood problem. Did you have something, Commissioner?
I'm just curious. Has Curtis been out that? What is it? What is the west that intersects 800 South, where the ditch turns and goes out to Wichita? What is that?
Okay. I call it the Wichita Channel.
Right.
From Ladybug. He has not been on
That one leg where we haven't cleaned it yet. Has it been? Has he done
it's
that yet?
on the list.
Okay.
He is working on something else this week that just came to our attention. There was an apron at Shawnee that is undermined, so he's hauling rock today to shore that up. But he will actually be starting on that north-south leg of Wichita that I discussed in a previous meeting. That's quite overgrown. The channel handles, I think I calculate an average of 1,500 CSF and drops right down to under 1,000 because of all both the size of encroachment as well as the vegetation growth. It probably would be hard pressed in a good storm. Fortunately, and we have been working with SUU Farm. They've been great. They actually have moved their fence off that line almost. What would you say, Bruce? That was about 30 feet.
Oh, good.
Oh my heck!
We went and laid it off for them.
Oh, that's great.
Wow.
They're in the fence now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Halfway done.
Good.
They are,
Heck.
and so that will give us a lot
Give us
more
room to work and all
we
that.
we
channel. That's good.
we've got those power lines. We won't have, and so rather than maybe going as deep, we'll go wider.
Wider. So we'll widen it to the east.
Yep. Wide or deep, either one holds capacity.
Because there's power lines in the bottom, right?
There's a power line. Yeah, it comes right up the side of it, north to south.
Yeah.
Be good.
Yeah, it's concerning.
Yeah, that'll be really good.
We received an NRCS flood emergency funds in this last in January of $1.1 million, and a contract's been awarded to Bowen Collins to look at 6 projects, which will improve our future flood outlook in several places. as well as some repairs that needed to be done. Unfortunately, 800 South doesn't qualify for NRCS funding, but that award for a plant on 800 South there by the Westview is works with Platt and Platt, and hopefully we'll have a reasonable. We'll have a plan that we can either accept, modify, or come up with something different. But we've got to get the water out of the Westview subdivision.
So that plan will be, when will they have that complete, do you think?
They should have that complete by the end of this. Well, it's already the end of this, so I'll say the end of April. They were asked to have it done by, I think, April 15th or 17th. And last but not least, we've touched on it before, is Lund Highway is underway. They are making some adjustments to some difficulties that have arisen due to the widening of the Lund Highway. The travelway was, about 24 feet?
Yeah, 24.
And it's got to be 28, and so they're working on some slough off they have from the edge that they just did. Yeah. And I'll be working with them to make sure that they meet our goals and our standards for Lund Highway. But they've been really great to work with. So we look forward to it. The road department has grubbed the other 1.4 miles at this time and have been removing that material as well. So I'll let Bruce take that. I won't take his thunder on that. So are there any questions, commissioners, any thoughts?
You know, I had a thought the other day, and I know it's there's a trailhead. What's that trailhead that goes up, the BLM trailhead where it's really eroded, that channel? What's that called? Up on the southeast. You know, Phil Schmidt's hauling that material up. You know, he built a road. He's doing that development down for Choice Builders.
Yes. Yeah, down
And I
off
notice
of,
looks like they're trying to
Sure, it
find
says
places to,
Canyon.
trying to get rid of some of that
Church
material.
Canyon. Yeah,
If
BLM.
he has excess dirt, there's a real erosion problem on that trailhead, that BLM trailhead.
That's called the
Up above.
Pyramid Trailhead.
Is that what it's? I can't remember the name of
It's
it.
Pyramid.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, we're going to have our
If he-
ward young men, father and
Be
son
worth
camp out there.
talking to
If Phil has
Bill.
extra material and wants to get rid of it, that might be a good spot to put it because there's
I'll look at that again because
it's
I noticed
eroding
that,
something terrible.
that on the other side of the fence there's quite a bit of erosion. What we'd rather have probably is some stone with it, because right now what he's taking off of C and B is
Dirt.
mostly dirt.
Right.
And on a side note, that's not part of this report, not necessarily in the county, Phil's been a great asset to me. He's been a good stakeholder, a good county planning commissioner. But we have a channel there, which is what I'll call the north channel of Schertz Creek that comes down. And with that development and the other development off of Tipple Road, we're looking at a significant amount of water that will be coming through the city and out to the county on Westview. And as I reviewed that last week, we have a 30-inch culvert across Westview to take all the water that's going to come from probably 3/4 of that development on the east side of 91.
Oh, that's not the great big channel then that the
No,
CCs did,
On,
that Rick did.
no, you go a little north of that, and
Little
there's
north,
a
yeah.
30-inch culvert to take everything on, and then it joins up with Schertz Creek again. But with all that
Maybe we could partner
hardscape that
with.
they're creating, so we have a pretty, I think we have a good relationship with Cedar City's engineering department, and I'm going to bring that up at our next coordination meeting next month. That there's quite a bit of
That's a lot.
future water is going to come off all those developments in South Cedar, and the challenge is at the end of the day, it all enters the county, and then we're handling a lot of water, which makes me consider that when they annex and build out, which is good for growth, what is their responsibility to make sure the county, the impact to the county is shared.
Do you feel like we're in preparation for the monsoons that could be coming and probably will. Do you feel like we're getting ready? Do you think
Oh,
we're in shape?
absolutely.
We're in
Commissioner.
pretty good shape, right?
We're in good shape for this summer's monsoon. What I'm talking about is something 20 years down
Right.
the road that will
Sure.
be coming across Westview.
Right, and then also the Canaraville detention pond. How
That-
are we?
that's-
Is that on the schedule before
Yeah,
we start heading to?
that's part of the NRCS funding,
Got it. Okay.
and I can't spend any money till I have a plan in hand from an outside consultant firm. That's what Bowen Collins is working on, and some of them are really simple and straightforward, and others are a little more complex. But as soon as I have a plan and NRCS approves the plan, then we can pull the trigger and start spending money. So I'm kind of staying off some projects that I know will receive reimbursement at least, or payment for the time spent on them.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No. Thank you for your
Good,
efforts.
thanks,
Appreciate it.
Richard. Okay, we'll move to landfill and roads. Bruce.
Thank you, sir.
I did want to say, I had a nice road trip with our junior SWAT team member last week.
Nice.
It was about a road issue.
Oh. Not SWAT related. Oh, I thought he took you along for protection.
Sometimes that's needed, huh?
Yeah, he was my lawyer at the meeting.
No.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. Kudos to Terry. That's cool to win an award, right? That
Awesome.
love
Yep.
when Iron County does good things, right?
Yep.
And thanks to Rich, he's been helping us out a lot. We'll start with landfill. Our re-permit process for the landfill is getting closer. Talked to Doug this morning, in fact, and that's got to go for a 30-day review that will start soon, hopefully this week. There's just been some slowdowns at the DEQ, and so once that gets out for 30 days, and then they'll either approve or deny based on what that 30 days is. But I'm anticipating approval. So all our employees are working and healthy. Budget's on track. We just finished our spring water sample. As you're aware, we sold one of our roll-off trucks to the Cedar City. They're going to start hauling their waste out to us at the sewer plant. So we sold them a truck, and they're going forward with that. We just awarded the tree chipping bid to Diamond Tree Experts. They'll be down hopefully in a month, and we'll be able to create some more mulch. And we just put out to bid to recycle the metal. I think there's about 700 tons there of recyclable metal. So that comes due on the 9th, not till the 9th of April, yeah. And then this other paper is just a snapshot of the last 3 years up to today. So you can see in there that we're up from last year, but last year was down just a little teeny bit from the year before. But every year we just keep growing more and more trash. So also we have the compactor that was the 826G is really close to being done, so we'll be back to 2 compactors hopefully in a week. So I talked to Jason Hatch over at Wheelers this morning, and they're going to start invoicing us on part of that as soon as today, and then so we'll be back in business. Then we'll have to go through our the tracks on the dozer are set up to be next as soon as that's done.
Which dozer? The 8?
The 8, yeah.
What does it need done?
Just tracks and rails and
You turn the
chains.
pins and bushings.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
Yeah.
how's the grousers on it? They in good shape?
They're good. The pads are good. Pads and grousers, so they're good. It just needs chains and rollers and pins and bushings, But it's a good dozer. It just needs some maintenance. Any question on landfill?
Yeah. So we went on a little conference, Bruce and road conference, and we was talking about the landfill. Will you tell them about the drone footage that you're able to get to tell us how much we fill in the landfill?
So it's
This is really interesting, I think.
Yeah, there's a company that's part of Wheeler Machinery. It's called SciTech, and they have a drone that builds a pattern, and they come out once a year. It's like $600 a year, and they can tell us exactly how much we've put in each year. Because of the slopes on the sides of the landfill, you can't really get up there and topo it. But with these new drones, it takes a picture every 32 feet all over the whole entire thing. And when we did do it, you know, you look up there and you measure the top at the top and the bottom at the bottom, but you can't really slope it. We found that there's 500,000 more yards there than we thought there originally was. So it extends our life. But it's then the guy made a cool little 3D print out of, he's got a 3D printer of the landfill, and you can see where that it moves every year. So yeah, it's just the new technology, the GIS technology that's out there is really beneficial, so that we can tell what our compaction rates are is really what we're looking for.
So how much time does 500,000 yards buy you?
At least 6 months. A long time.
A long time.
A long time.
Because you're still estimating, what, 40-ish years left on the landfill, give or take?
With this new permit, 100.
100? But I mean, till we fill it up?
100 years.
If
we get re-permitted with this,
Oh, okay.
there's a lot of property there that
We are
was
so
not in the
lucky
permit.
to have those,
Oh.
the old mine. We
Yeah.
were talking to some other counties when we were up at that conference, and it's so expensive to do a landfill, and we are so lucky here in Iron County. We have saved so much money because of that
It
mining.
really does.
It really does. We don't have to line it because it's already solid rock.
Solid rock, bottom and sides. So yeah, it'll go into 100 plus years with the new re-permit.
Wow. And is that the same pit then, or is it additional?
It's additional. It's the same. It really is the same pit. It just doesn't look like it. But yeah, it's all one big long line
Okay.
that we didn't realize wasn't permitted before.
Oh.
And then a year ago, right now, we had the engineer that we work with and the DEQ, and we all got up on the mountain and looked, and they're like, "Yep, you're right. Let's do this." So it's been a long road.
Well, that's wonderful. I mean, last time we talked, it was closer to 40.
Yeah.
Right, because of this new permit, which we're in the process, and Bruce has been working really hard. And a year ago, when I came on into the commission, it was like we're just getting ready to do this, but that's how long government takes a lot of times to get those permitting.
We may have to drill one more monitoring well with it, but it's still we'd love to do that. We want to make sure that we're doing it right.
Well, and I think that's a good example of, so many times you see Iron County doing these things that in the long run will save taxpayers money, and that's a good one. I mean, to have safe drinking water, a long time to have a place for refuse, and
Do
to
you
really
remember
keep the cost down.
what the Cache County, they just barely did a new one.
Cache County did one, yeah. They were $5 million before they got one load of trash in. That's
Yeah.
what their cost was.
Well, and the landfill's been doing a set aside for a new spot as required by law for a long time, and
It's not. The set aside was just us. That's not. The closure fees are required by law, but not set aside for
not
a
set
new
aside.
one.
Okay.
That was just us.
Anyway, I just the point being is you've been incredibly responsible, and I think that's
Bruce is really
going to benefit Iron County for years.
frugal and very conscious and conscientious of the taxpayer money, and we appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Is that good on landfill? Any other
Yep.
questions?
Yep, that's
Road department. So we just finished the grubbing, like Rich said, on the Lund Highway. We've been hauling for a couple of days the pit run to widen it. We got big gravel going in, and we're just finishing the grubbing on 4100 West. There's still a little bit to do. We're also working on the fairgrounds over here, and thanks to Rich it's a pretty big area, and so we had some draining issues and wanting to know where we're going to be. And Rich has been fantastic.
Is it going to work out okay?
That out.
Is it going to drain to the west? Okay, or
it's going to drain back to the east.
Oh, is it? Okay.
It's going to drain to the east.
West.
We're going to make a tub out of it.
Oh no, the west. It does go to the west.
Okay, I was going to say,
Yeah.
if it goes to the east,
go
it
back
might
to the
fill up the
road.
arena.
There's not a lot of fall there. There's not a lot of fall there. It's
yeah,
pretty flat.
it is.
Pretty flat, but
You think you can grade it?
Up and put it over the ball field, but I don't think Parowan wants that.
we're gonna have a little bit of a retention pond, but
Yeah, we will have a retention pond, and then he's helping us design some drainage and some
the
pipes going
elevations
out.
and
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah. We just don't want to go over there and guess it. We
willy nilly.
because it's so much gravel. It's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
We're working on the bids for the chip oil. We did the chip. Mel Clark received the bid for the chip that we got. I think he was 22 a ton. Everybody else is 25. So
Good.
as soon as we get the oil, we got a meeting tomorrow with one more oil company that we found at these conferences. So the more bids we can get, hopefully the cheaper we can get it. It's really hard to bid right now because it's up and down, and trying to
We
see
know
the
what our
future of
fuel
what that
is.
is. It's going to be hard, yeah. And then, like I say, helped move the fence out on 800 South on that channel. Should make it a lot easier now.
Good.
Just a lot of stuff going forward. A lot of stuff. We got a little job on the mountain to build a turnaround at the county line, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yep,
that'll come
yep.
hopefully later. But yeah, the things out on Lund Highway looking good. All our roads are looking good now. We're just doing some
I have a
general
question
maintenance.
on that. Now, are we doing the chip seal on that? Or are they doing it on that first mile point?
No,
too?
we're doing it all.
You were doing it all.
We're just
okay.
going to go all 3 miles at once, we hope.
Yeah, yeah.
All 3 miles. Justin's out there meeting with them right now just to go over what's
Okay.
left, and they, before they start hauling type 2 on.
Yeah.
So hopefully, there's a couple issues out there that we've got to work out, but not too big a deal, I don't think.
Where are you getting material for you're enlarging the shoulders and with
Mhm.
pit run? Where are you getting that?
We're getting it from the yard. There's some in that.
It's hauling it from you.
Yeah. There is a little pit out there just north of where we are.
Mhm.
I took the traco out and exposed the gravel myself. I don't know if it's good enough gravel to go in there. It's pretty small and really sandy. So we'll see.
We was hoping we
Yeah.
would be able to use that, but there wasn't enough to,
We need something to bind it. It's pretty sandy.
yeah.
So, and the BLM actually staked that pit for us, and Justin and I went and potholed to see what was there.
Mhm.
So it's possible that if we got a dozer out there, we could mix some of the material. But right now we have enough at the yard to do this first phase.
Good.
Okay.
I think we have enough type 2 at the yard also. Okay, any other questions?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce. Okay. Reed still didn't get here. So, I think that's all of them except for commission. So, Paul, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. So, Terry mentioned the fairgrounds. We've been watching those close. It's looking good. Carter Enterprise is doing a wonderful job on that. It's going to be exciting to get those bleachers installed and ready for our upcoming fair. I attended this last week the CDBG, which is the Community Development Block Grant Board. I serve on that board statewide, representing 5 county association of governments. And I went up and what that is it's a board that administers HUD funding. So HUD gives us money for low income and mid income projects. Our fire station we're building in Newcastle received $200,000 from CDBG. And then the CIB, which is Community Development Block Grant, we received $500,000 from them, and then we're putting $100,000 of county funds into that. So that's a board I serve on. We attended a water users meeting in St. George. They have that annually. It's really a good informative meeting talking about our water conditions in the state of Utah, snowpacks throughout the state, reservoirs. I think we're about 90% snowpack on our mountains, which is fairly good. We sure could use some more storms through the spring, and I think we've got some rain coming, which is a blessing. Lake Powell is not looking good. It's pretty dire. We met with Congressman Chris Stewart. That was we had some nice meetings with him, and appreciated his visit and the opportunity to discuss things that are important to our county. Marilyn, I'll let you talk about the UDAF zone meeting. You're the expert on that. Today, in fact, I've got to leave right after commission meeting today. The Central Iron County Water Conservancy District is touring a project in Colorado Springs. There's an engineering firm that's going to take us on a tour. There's a pipeline that was constructed there that's very similar to the one we plan to do to bring water in from Pine Valley. Head to Colorado Springs, and we're going to tour that for 2 days and receive some instruction on how that all works.
What size is that pipe?
Well, initially it was 54 inch, but that's some. I don't know. There's some debate there. Some say that that's bigger than we need, but it's pretty large. Anyway, that's about all I have. So.
Okay, alrighty. So on the 16th, we had an emergency training. George Colson put that together, and it was for the elected officials, and all of us got together. We had some other folks from the other counties also that came in, and I felt like that it was very beneficial. It was done by Texas A&M, I believe, is the folks that came in and did that for us, and I thought that was really good, especially with all the emergency stuff that we had last year. That was good to kind of collaborate and talk about all those issues. On the 18th, we got to meet with Governor Spencer Cox. We talked about water, of course, and Paul explained a lot of that, those issues, and some other things that it was really good, and he was very receptive and listened, and it was a good meeting. I wanted to give a shout out to I went on the 19th. They had a women's conference. It was really good. This is the second annual. They broke out into different stations, and it was really interesting and a lot of neat, just different things. I'm sure they'll have it next year in March, so watch for that, because it was really enjoyable, and the folks that put that together, it was really nice. We went to a road conference through UAC, and on the 24th and 25th last week, Bruce and Justin and I all went over to that. They had some great different boards and different things about the infrastructure. They talked about inland port and the GIS technology. We talked about flood control and storm drainage, emergency stuff with Public Works, and a mutual aid agreement, and I believe we're part of that, which is a really good thing for the Salt Lake area people to come down and help us if we need that. It was really good. I felt like that it was beneficial, and that was good. What was the other thing that you said?
Oh, UDAF. The UDAF meeting we went to, the Zone 5 down in St. George
at
the Staley Farms. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that.
Oh, yeah. That was good, too. That was on, what day was that? That was on Monday of the last week. Elected officials, E&I conservation districts, they have a dinner and just discuss some of the issues that they have in the state. That was really good too. It's always good to meet with those folks throughout the state to what our issues and that type of thing. It was at Staley Farms, and it was interesting. There's so much growth going on there. It's just crazy, and poor little Staley Farms is just shrinking down and down and down. And he said they've sold a bunch more of their property off, and I think they're going to be probably gone in the next few years, and they'll probably end up going to their Colorado ranch because they're just getting squeezed out, which is pretty sad for agriculture. Pretty sad, but anything else? You have something?
I do have one more thing.
Okay.
I wasn't planning to mention this, but I'm going to. There was an op-ed that came out in the Iron County Today last week that said the commissioners do not support the Second Amendment, and that couldn't be further from the truth. And I just want to give some history. There's groups once in a while, and while I have great respect for them, oftentimes groups come and want us to pass ordinances or resolutions to protect the Second Amendment. Number one, we already have a Constitution that protects our Second Amendment rights. But we happened to, in relation to this group that wanted us to pass their ordinance, and it was great, but we already passed one. When I was on the city council in Cedar City in 2013, and Commissioner Miller was on this body, I passed that, got that ordinance or that resolution passed in the Cedar City Council, and Commissioner Miller got it passed here. It was very similar to what they already had passed, but these statements, while they make us feel good and make us feel like it's sometimes they can be very vague, and we debated that, and we've looked at the one we passed in 2013, and that's the one that was proposed, and that's really what led us to passing the ordinance in Iron County last year. It was 2021-4, and what it was is it was modeled after Utah's Constitutional and Federalism Defense Act, and what it did is it created a very transparent process where it created a board of the county attorney, county sheriff, and the 3 county commissioners. And as something came out, whether it was Second Amendment related or any other government, federal government, or even state overreach, we could meet as a body and make a determination whether we thought that was constitutional or not, in our opinion, and we could make a decision on what we want to do moving forward, whether we want to fight them in court, whatever action we wanted to take. But I don't know if you can find 3 commissioners anywhere that are more in favor of defending our Second Amendment rights. And that's just the bottom line. So I just...
The other thing is that the sheriff had kind of advised us against not passing something now, because we felt like if there was something big come down, he felt, and he has talked to the sheriff's boards and all of the other sheriffs in the state. There's like 3 other counties that have passed a similar type ordinance, and he felt like that if something big like that came down the pike, that if we all came in together, say 20 counties came in
all
and
29.
passed that all together, it would have way more impact than just one county doing something. And that was the other reason why we held off on it, because we feel like the sheriff gives us good information. He goes to the meetings with other sheriffs, and we felt like that was really important too.
And kudos to this group and others that have that goal in mind to protect our Second Amendment rights.
Yeah.
That's on all of our minds. We all
Absolutely.
That's where I draw the line in my life, is that. I mean, nobody. I served a LDS mission in Australia 42 years ago, and they'd already given up their guns, and it wasn't good.
They turned them all in.
And we saw this last with the government overreach on some of the things with relating to the pandemic, and we saw the things that happened in Australia to those people, and it is important to us, and it's extremely important to us, and I commend those group and any others that want us to do that. But like Commissioner Wood said, the sheriff thinks we should be on the same page with all 29 counties united if we do get behind something like that. So just wanted to clear that up. Thank you.
Anyway, all right, we'll go ahead and take a 5-minute break and then come back for the 10 o'clock meeting. It'll be just 5 minutes after or something, so.
We ready, Joe?
We're rolling.
Have you got Mike?
I just turned you back
Have you
on.
got Mike?
Oh,
Whoops.
not yet. I'm calling him. Hope he's not still trying to speechify.
Okay. Are you going to be able to get? We're going to do. So, did you look on that email that see right here, the one that what's his name? Dan just sent us.
Oh, yeah.
It's got all of it's got all of those. So you might want to bring those up because you're going to have to, if you'll go ahead and make a motion for them, and then I'll just open up.
So, you've
He's
got a
not.
quorum and he's not responding. So if and when he reaches, in fact, I'll kind of make a faux pas. I'm going to turn my
Okay.
volume on my phone, and if he reaches, yeah.
Welcome back, everyone, to commission meeting to the 10 o'clock, Monday, the 28th day of March, 2022. And we will go to agenda item number 1, public hearing, discussion, and possible approval of a proposed zone change for agriculture 20 to light industrial located approximately 6352 west, 200 south, Cedar City, approximately 120 acres. And we'll turn the time over to Reed.
Good morning, Commission. This zone change came at a recommendation from the Planning Commission to rezone approximately 123 acres from agricultural 20 to light industrial. The property is located just on the north side of Highway 56, just west of the Cedar area. The heavy line there is our Tier 2 boundary, and you can see the green line is where the belt route is, so 5700 west, so it's just out past that. On the north side, as we zoom in here, you can see that where the star is, this 120 acres right here is what we're talking about. There's a 40 and an 80 that right across the street from 6300 West, where 6300 West comes in, they've been laying some gravel on this 200 South road, and that's where the property is located. You can see there's nothing currently on the property from this aerial, but they have started, they've got a building underway right here in the center of this 40-acre parcel that they could get through just a building permit on the existing parcel. Their intent is to rezone the property and then do a subdivision that would allow them to do some small 5-acre industrial lots, light industrial. So to remind you, and this just shows what the property is surrounding zoning, but the zoning map, as you can see here, we have some commercial zoning here, some light industrial over here, and then we haven't had an updated on our zoning map, but this was a zoned light industrial right here as well. So we have some light industrial in this area, mostly A20 around it with some RA20 down to the south and some commercial right across the street. As we talked about the differences between the types of industrial uses that could occur there and some of their interests in the property and what kind of services were available in terms of infrastructure, water, sewer. They have power and communications available there as well as gas. So it's a good property for a light industrial type zoning based on what the current uses are around the area. They felt like it was something that they wanted to explore and try to figure out some more infrastructure there in terms of water. There's no sewer available in the area. Water, right now they'll operate off of a well for their current business, but they have Water Conservancy District water available to them to the north. And as Frank Nichols developed some of that property north of them, then that would be available. They could bring that down if the demand is there for those kinds of uses. Light industrial is a better fit there than industrial because there are residential on the south side of the highway there, and Frank has some, Mr. Nichols has some properties just between this property and the light industrial that he had done, that he intends to do some residential development in. So after notification surrounding property owners, we didn't have any comment from anyone. Public hearing at the Planning Commission didn't bring anything out either. So I think that most people feel it's a reasonable use in that area. Reminding you that the difference between industrial and why we felt industrial may not be appropriate there because of the proximity of the other uses is that industrial properties allow for the heavier uses to occur outdoors, outside of a building, where the light industrial use requires that any type of compressors, machinery, any of those kinds of things, painting, anything that would be occurring would actually be is required to be within the building. The only thing in a light industrial zone that can be outside the building is storage of materials, and then it has to be screened. So we feel like the impacts in this area would not be adverse, and the Planning Commission recommended approval. Kind of reviewed some of the things that we've talked about there, and that's an introduction to the project.
Okay. Okay, the chair will declare the public hearing open. And if anybody would like to comment on that. Seeing none, we will close and turn it back to Reed.
You'll remember that with a zoning consideration, we have these evaluation criteria or considerations that we review and look at because we're really looking at the zoning stage of feasibility. We're trying to determine whether this is an area that could accommodate the kinds of uses that are allowed in that zone. Because when we zone a property, of course, we don't have a specific project. Often people have a specific project in mind, but as we evaluate zoning, we don't look at it as just a project. We look at what are all of the uses that could occur in that zone, and would it be appropriate or adverse? And because it's a legislative decision, the criteria or the standard for which you consider this decision is based on what the courts call that it could promote the general welfare. You have a lot of discretion in zoning, of course, and the idea is that you try to evaluate the pros and cons, whether you feel like it would be a benefit to the area or whether you feel it would be detrimental. There's no specific hard criteria. The rules have not been laid out, but these considerations are laid out simply from the perspective of feasibility. We look at, is it possible in this area to do the kinds of things that are allowed in that zone? And after the staff and Planning Commission have reviewed these, we have determined that it is feasible, that it could promote the general welfare, and that it would not be adverse to surrounding properties, and so the Planning Commission recommended approval. And I don't know if you want to consider or talk about any of those considerations specifically or not.
So if they're 5 acres, then they can go ahead and do septic tank, right?
Correct. Yeah, they would have septic on 5. If they wanted any less than that, they'd have to bring sewer in. And you know, of course, in that area, there's talk of new sewer lagoons and other development, and so, you know, as that became available, they could go down smaller, but for right now, they would be limited to 5 acres.
Yeah. Okay.
But that would come at subdivision.
Any discussion? Or do you want to make a motion?
I'll move to approve the proposed zone change from agriculture 20 acres, A20, to light industrial, LI, located at approximately 6352 West, 200 South Cedar City, Utah. And that's approximately 120 acres located within the description as outlined in the agenda. And it meets all of the, what's the wording? All of the
considerations, feasibility considerations.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I'd second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so now we will go to public comment. 3-minute limits for speakers to make a public comment. Should not repeat others' comments. Only for items not on the agenda. No other related no items related to Commission's role as an appeals board, and comments should be directed to the Commission. No attacks on others' character. And state your name, please.
Yes, thank you. Volney Morin is my name. You know, I haven't checked to see if this is already on the agenda, but I'm just going to take a moment and offer an unsolicited endorsement of Eric Cox. Before he moved to Westview many years ago, I was serving as Elders Quorum president. He was in my quorum, and he has demonstrated a very a charitable heart, a willingness to serve and to go beyond what might otherwise be expected of him to get a job done. And I can simply say that his reputation in the community is one of honesty and generosity. So I would encourage the board to seriously consider his appointment. I thought it might be helpful if there was a endorsement from the community at large in the minutes as opposed to just your knowledge of the man. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Very good.
Nice.
Thanks. Any other comments? Okay, we will go down to number 3, presentation on prevention from Southwest Behavioral Health Center. Logan,
That's me.
read.
Possible for me to connect a presentation so you can see some slides?
Yes. Have you got a PowerPoint by chance, or you?
Yes.
You want to just? We can do that.
Well, he's setting up, Logan did this presentation in our 5-county behavioral health board, and I asked him to come and present this. It was really good, and I appreciate him coming.
Yeah, and I appreciate the invite.
What do you plan? Maybe is that? Or,
Okay. Okay.
some
Do
of
you
it.
have? Can you email me that? real
Yeah, it's just different.
I could.
Overview
Well,
of
can I
that,
connect
just-
to the internet here?
That another.
Logan, is your presentation about 10 minutes?
I can make it 10 minutes. Yep.
Would that be all right?
Mm-hmm.
We've got some meetings afterward that we.
Landing chatter 88 lower.
88. See if I did that right.
Take it.
Just gonna make this a PDF. Send that to you. While we try to get this going, let me just introduce this data that I'm going to present. This comes from the Utah Health and Risk Prevention Assessment that we do throughout the state. And we do this every 2 years. We survey 6th through 12th graders statewide. In what email do you want me to send this to?
Jay Whitaker at IronCounty.net. So you could have said it as the native PowerPoint too.
We do this every 2 years, and in 2021, which is the last time that we did this survey, was about exactly a year ago. It was in February and March that we conducted the survey. We had about 71,000 students statewide.
PowerPoint, you can send it native.
Well, it's a keynote, and I'm just worried that
Okay,
it'll.
yeah, just send the PDF. And I've got this, but if need be, I can scroll.
Yeah, that'll be fine. So we had about 71,000 students statewide that took it. Here in Iron County, we had, that it? Okay, there it goes. A little over 3,000 students that took the survey, which is actually a little bit more than we typically had. We were worried that we might have a smaller response rate. We've got a really good response rate. And so what I wanted to share with you, I'll just go through a couple of slides. As I told Commissioner Cousins, we have lots of information. I could spend hours talking about the data, but he asked me to just handpick a couple of things to illustrate some of the issues that we're seeing and that we're dealing with with youth, particularly here in southern Utah. And so what I'm going to go through first is I'm going to show you just some trends that we've been seeing for all of our southwest counties combined. So I'm going to crash all that data together, quickly show you the trends. They look very similar even when we go to the individual counties. And then I'll show you some data specific to Iron County. And we're going to look at some substance use issues as well as some behavioral health and more. Go ahead and start advancing through slides.
See if your clicker will work on it.
It shared everything. I had a whole bunch of these
Let me
slides
plug it
hidden,
in.
but
It's not going to work till I plug it in.
it wasn't turned on either.
Okay, give it a shot. No?
You want me to do the other one, or is that Jeff? Do you need that one moved?
Can you go up to view and choose the full screen mode? Maybe then it'll let me click. Nope, it's still not. You'll
Okay,
just have to-
I'll scroll for you.
So most of these slides I tried to hide, so you're gonna have to go quite a ways before you get to the ones that I wanted to show. This is all information about the survey. I'm gonna skip through that, and here we're getting close. So let's start right there. Really quick, we asked some students about their experiences with COVID-19, and I just wanted to quickly show that this is showing you the number of students in the state who said that they had been sick with the coronavirus, those that said that as a result of that they had had difficulty with schoolwork, and those that as a result of the pandemic had felt anxious or sad, and those who said that COVID did not have a negative impact on them. And I just wanted to show this to illustrate a couple of things. First of all, what this shows is that a lot of kids have been very negatively impacted by the pandemic, and they're feeling anxious and sad as a result of that, but not all kids. This demonstrates that almost half of the youth said this has not had a negative impact on them. And so I think it's important for us to recognize that while it does have a negative impact on a lot of kids and they're really struggling, not all of our kids are experiencing that. So here, I just wanted to quickly show you some of these trends. I'm going all the way back to 2007. I'm showing you all of our 5 counties combined. This is grades 6 through 8, all combined together. So if I were to just show you 6th graders, these numbers would be lower. 12th graders, they would be higher. This is the average of all of them. And you can see that in 2007, alcohol, prescription drugs, and cigarettes were the 3 most commonly used substances among kids here in southern Utah. Marijuana and inhalants were clear down there around only 2% of kids that were regularly using those substances. Go to the next one, and this is going to show you up to 2011. You'll see a couple of changes here. First of all, cannabis moved from being down there on the end all the way up to the number 2 spot. So we saw almost a doubling of the number of kids who were using marijuana on a regular basis. I also at that time added e-cigarettes in because you can see that by 2015, e-cigarette use had gone into the number 1 spot. We saw a 340% increase in the number of kids that were using a vaporizing device to take in probably nicotine mostly, but you can put any substance in an e-cigarette or a vaporizer, and so we know that a lot of them are using marijuana in those. And you can see that marijuana use continues to climb, and if you go to the next one, this is going to show us up to 2019. Our electronic cigarette use rates are continuing to go up, but not at the same levels they were before. Marijuana moved into the number 2 spot, which means that in southern Utah, depending on the grade that you look at and the community that you look at, kids are more likely to be smoking weed than they are to be consuming alcohol. Alcohol is now in our number 3 spot. And if you go to the next one, we're finally to 2021. You can see that, thank goodness, we're seeing some reductions in our electronic cigarette use overall. That's not true for every community. Some communities are continuing to see some inclines there, but overall we're starting to see those rates level out and in some cases come down. Cannabis use continues to go up. We're seeing a little bit of an uptick in alcohol as well as those other substances. And so I wanted to just show you some other detailed slides. So fast forward through a couple of these. Actually, go back to that one right there. I just wanted to give you a comparison. You can see the Utah data. This is specifically for cigarettes. As I mentioned, depending on the community that you look at, we see some slightly different things. So with combustible, this is a traditional combustible cigarette. You can see where Utah stands compared to the southwest 5 counties, compared to, in this case, I chose a community from your county, Parowan, where we have higher rates of combustible cigarette use as compared to the state. That's actually pretty common for most of our smaller rural communities. We see higher rates of combustible cigarette use in those areas. So I just wanted to give you an example of that. Go to this one here. This is looking at those electronic cigarettes. You can see that most kids who are using nicotine are starting with a vaporizer rather than a traditional combustible cigarette. And that might be one of the reasons why we're seeing an increase in traditional cigarette use, like the one I just showed you for Parowan. A lot of kids will start with a vaporizer because it's easier to get their hands on, it's easier to ingest, and then after a nicotine addiction has started, then they'll switch over to a traditional combustible cigarette. Just a couple of quick slides on cannabis use. You can see that some of our communities are seeing a reduction, though overall we see an increase. Here I wanted to just show you, keep going. I have that same slide, but let's stop right there. Yeah. So this is showing you different grades. Now we're looking at Iron County in general. So this is 6th, 8th, 10th, and 12th graders for Iron County. We asked them a number of questions related to mental health, and then we combine all of those together to get an assessment of whether or not they would qualify as having treatment needs, if their concerns would qualify for needing treatment. And you can see that over the years, this is showing you from 2017 to 2021, the number of students in all of our grades that meet criteria for needing treatment for mental health is going up quite significantly, to the point that in 10th grade, you're looking at almost a third of students that qualify as having high mental health treatment needs. Go to some other ones. You can see those that display moderate depressive symptoms, pretty significant, 65%, and that just shows you the increase from 2017 to 2021. We asked them if they have felt sad or hopeless for 2 weeks in a row, and the reason we asked the question that way is because it's normal for kids to feel sad and even to feel hopeless. It's not normal for them to feel that way for an extended period of time, for 2 weeks in a row. And so we asked them the question that way, and you can see that those rates are going up as well. Kids are reporting more feelings of sadness and hopelessness. Let me show you just a few more. You're going to have to go quite a ways to get to these last ones. Oh, actually right there is where we wanted to go. Commissioner Cousins specifically asked me to show some of the links that we're seeing between certain behaviors and some of the negative things that we're concerned about. This slide is an overlay of the number of students who report feeling depressed or sad most days during the year, compared to how often they're getting together with their family to have a family meal. So what that slide is showing you going across is the number of days, go right there. The number of days, so if they had dinner together as a family, 0 to 7 days a week. And then the bar is showing you those that reported feeling sad or hopeless for most days during the past year. And what this shows is a very direct connection between kids spending time once a day with their family and their likelihood to feel sad or depressed. Apparently there's something about having a family meal together once a day that greatly reduces the likelihood that kids will say they're sad or depressed. This next slide here shows you a very similar link, but looking at whether or not kids had seriously considered suicide in the last year and how often they spend on their phones outside of school. And so this is showing you the number of hours of screen time after school. We specifically specified in that question, when we said screen time, we said time spent on social media, YouTube, or gaming, playing video games of some kind. And you can see another really interesting correlation. The more number of hours that kids spend on their screen outside of school, the greater the likelihood that they report feeling suicidal or having suicidal thoughts. And then this last one is also connected to that. This is showing the number of hours of sleep that they get during the night and whether or not they had seriously considered suicide in the last 12 months. So you can see those who are getting 8, 9, 10 hours of sleep a night are much less likely to consider suicide than those who are only getting 5 or 4 hours a night. And of course, this is probably also connected to the screen time. The more time they're spending on the screen, the less sleep that they're getting. Both of those things separately are connected to suicidal ideation. And together, it's probably compounded even more. So anyway, that's just a brief introduction to this data. Really what we wanted to do is just show that, first of all, we track this. We do this survey every 2 years so that we can look at these trends and see what's happening and see the changes. What we're seeing with this most recent data is an increase in a number of our substances being used that we haven't seen increases in before. we're seeing an increase in a lot of the mental health issues. And what's really unique about this new data is that those increases are most common among our younger students. Typically, we see those increases with our 10th and our 12th graders. Almost all of them this year, depending on which data points we look at, they're the 6th and the 8th graders that are seeing the increases with these issues. So they're presenting themselves at much younger ages and starting to get engaged with things like drugs at a younger age than they had before. There's a lot of things that the Southwest Behavioral Health Center is doing to try to prevent this, and we're seeing some really great success. And the most successes that we're seeing are coming from local community coalitions that are getting together, and they're looking at this data, and they're picking something specific to their community that they can focus on. And then we help them find evidence-based programs that have been shown to impact those issues and help them get them implemented. And so we're seeing great success with that. I could come back another time and talk more about that if you'd like, but one of the things we'd ask you to consider is how we could get more of those community coalitions addressing issues with evidence-based services. And just to throw this out, I mentioned this to Paul a couple of weeks ago, but we've been working with specifically the community of Parowan. We've gone to their city council. We have organized a coalition that is focusing specifically on this community. They've already started implementing some really great strategies. In fact, I was here last week presenting at the high school for a family night that they did for parents. And we would like to see that grow and turn into a more established and formalized coalition that we can maintain long term. There's a lot of funding that's out there that's available for us to be able to do that. But one of the things the funding requires is some show of support from the community with some match funds. So we're looking for around $10,000 that we could get to start that coalition. The state would then match it with an additional $30,000 on top of that. That would give us enough money to really get that coalition going and run it for 5 years to see if we can get some results. So as you're looking at things that you have available, resources, I know that we've got the prescription drug settlement money coming in. That might be something we could tap into. But we'd like to approach you later to talk about possibilities for how we could really formalize the coalition here and make it longer term. So,
will that be county then? Is what you're wanting to do?
So we currently have an Iron County Prevention Coalition, and with that is an associated youth coalition that has been in existence for a while and is functioning really well. And they're going to continue doing things, and they have done some things here in Parowan. But what we find is that those coalitions tend to focus on the bigger population. So most of their efforts end up in Cedar City and the Enoch area. And so we would like to get a coalition that could really focus on the Parowan and Paragouna Valley, including Bryan Head. And so this would be a separate coalition teamed up with the county coalition, but one focusing specifically just on this community. Anyway.
Really good.
Sorry, that was a lot of information.
That's really good.
I'm sorry, we're just really tight on time today.
I get it. I understand.
But we have these presentations in our board meetings, and it's a shame we don't get it out more. So thank you for coming. And,
yeah, I appreciate that.
We need to continue. So eat dinner with your kids and cut their screen time, make them sleep.
Yep, there you go. Those are the takeaways.
Yeah, very good. Thank
Thanks.
you very much. Okay. We'll move on to 4. Discussion and possible approval to accept a grant from the Utah State Fire Marshal Office to purchase equipment for the Burrell Fire Department. And we have Ryan Riddle.
Good morning, Commissioners. Appreciate your time. So we applied for and received grant funding from the Utah Fire Marshals Fire Marshal's Office. It's a license plate grant. So as you drive around, you'll see little license plates with firefighter. Mm-hmm. The funding that comes in from that goes into a pot of money that we were successful in applying for and receiving $3,900. And so that will go towards the purchase of thermal imaging cameras, which the West fire departments do not have any at all. So it's an improvement to those departments. It is not a matching grant. It's 100% funded. We originally asked for, look at my notes really quick, $4,900, so we didn't get the total amount. However, the $3,900 will accomplish a lot of what we asked for. So with your approval, we'll move forward on purchasing that equipment.
Okay.
All right, I'll make a motion to accept the grant in the amount of $3,900 from the Utah State Fire Marshal's office to purchase equipment for the Burrell Fire Department.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
My apologies, I didn't think to ask if you guys had any questions.
Oh, it was pretty self-explanatory,
Pretty
I think.
straightforward.
I did, just on the side note, I did sit by Alyssa at our CDBG board meeting.
Oh,
and I
great.
just talked to her about the fire truck for next year.
Yeah, yeah.
And just, have you met her, Alyssa?
Oh, yeah. I've
She's
had
right, she's
several
awesome.
meetings with
She's
her,
really thorough. So just,
She is.
I talked to her about it and just said we really want to get that in for next year. So
Yep. We're set and ready to go. We'll update the information in the packet and resubmit. So
awesome.
Cool.
awesome.
Okay,
Appreciate
Ryan.
the
Perfect.
continued
Thanks,
support
Ryan.
and work on that. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, we'll go to number 5. Approval of vehicle sale on a surplus website, 2001 Peterbilt, 2010 Ford F-150, and a GMC 2005. And we got Wade right here.
Good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
Good. Are you?
Good.
So the Ford F-150, it's one of the road departments. It's got some engine issues.
Okay.
And then the GMC it was an old building department vehicle. It's got a lot of miles on it. It needs some work, but it's just.
So we're just going
it
to go
hasn't
ahead
been
and
used
sell
much,
them. And
so we're just going to get rid of those
Yeah.
two.
yeah, very
So
good.
The 21 Peterbilt is the one at the engineering department. We're going to try to get something that's a little more fitting. So you betcha. The 21 Peterbilt's the one that is at the engineering department that we're going to try and get something a little more fitting for Curtis. So
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. I will move to approve the vehicle sale on surplus website 2021 Peterbilt, 2021 Ford F-150, and a 2005 GMC with the VIN numbers indicated there on the agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
thank you.
Thanks, Wade.
Thanks, Wade. Number 6, discussion and possible approval for matching grants from the Utah Office of Tourism, Destination Development Planning Grant, and we've got Maria.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So the Utah Office of Tourism has a matching grant to work for counties or destinations to work with a consulting firm to develop a tourism master plan for destination development and tourism economy expansion. The plan identifies goals and strategies for us to implement for the next 5 to 10 years. So we've had a plan, but it's aging out, and it doesn't really accommodate what has happened since the pandemic. And so this is a good time for us to really start looking at how we want to develop the destination for Iron County. We also like this program because our stakeholders and our community partners are all part of the process. There are several meetings that are held and some Zoom calls. So we develop the plan based on what the community wants countywide. The total cost is $40,000, and the Utah Office of Tourism provides $20,000 in a match. And I have already budgeted for this grant through the destination development line on my 2022 budget.
What was the other amount besides 20?
20.
20,000 and how much?
And then 20 from 20,000 from us and 20,000 from the Utah Office of Tourism.
So that's how much we're getting for the grant is 20, and then we're going to match it.
Then
We're
we'll
going to match it. And
Out
it's
of your
already
budget.
budgeted.
Perfect.
So
Okay.
it's a win-win.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping today that we can approve moving forward on that
All right.
process.
Well, I'll make that motion to approve that $20,000 matching grant from the Utah Office of Tourism.
Okay, second. And moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Maria. Okay, we'll go to number 7, discussion and possible approval of comprehensive credit limit and the state bank in southern Utah for county credit card procurement.
So I sent you guys a spreadsheet last Friday or Thursday or something like that. The problem is, so we have more and more employees that carry a credit card. We like the use of those. If they don't have them, we do lots of reimbursements. Reimbursements are a pain. They take a lot of time, and it's the type of thing that the IRS looks at really, because we're writing a check to an employee, and so, but it's not income, it's a reimbursement, but yet, anyways. So when we start writing checks to employees versus paying payroll, anyways, we like to do reimbursements as little as possible. We can do them, it's not a big deal, but if everybody has a card, anyways, that's why we have a lot of these. Our total limit right now is $174. Our total balance as of when I wrote that was $61,000. So it's not like we're using that, but every card that we give out is we have to have the credit limit to support that. We have a lot of these are at $500. Most of the sheriff's deputies are at $500. And I made the argument maybe we need to lower that instead of increasing this limit. The problem is they don't hardly ever use it until they go out of town, and then they're putting a hotel and things like that. And if you get much lower than that, then their card is almost useless when they do use it. Yeah. So anyways, this is what, and I think I forwarded the email that it was State Bank's recommendation. But I wanted to have a little bit of a buffer. We just did this not very long ago. We've had a lot of come on since then. And so anyways, that's the request is to increase it by $37,850, putting us to a new limit of $275. Questions I can answer. We have 3 accounts, by the way.
I'll move to approve of an increase, a comprehensive credit limit for State Bank of Southern Utah and the county credit card for procurement purposes.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. That good?
So I am on the next one too, though.
You're on the next one. Oh, yeah. They didn't put you on it, but discussion and approval of memorandum of understanding with Cedar City Corporation in regards to the remittance of past lift station fees collected by Iron County and remitted to Cedar City.
Yeah, so you guys are aware we've been working on this for a while.
Yes.
This is the final piece in requesting. I requested, it came a little while ago and requested the ability to do this, and Cedar City sent over an MOU. They basically wanted it in writing, and I've talked with Sam about this, had legal review it. Let me just point out a few things in the MOU. One, it's in the second to the last whereas. It says the city will refund to the county collected lift station fees and no longer collect these fees when a building permit is issued. That's kind of the overall point. But they put in some other things. For one, I wanted to point out the amount, $67,205.30. That number is from Cedar City. That's the number that they feel to be accurate. The number used to be $6,400, and I asked them to count up everything through the end of the year because while we were working on it, we were still remitting fees. So we stopped remitting fees as of the end of December. We haven't remitted any fees in the year 2022. And according to them, the total fees is $67,205. The problem is I can't go back in our records because we don't have access to our old financial server past 2012. And so, but this is close to my estimate with me guessing. I had my hard numbers back to them, and then I kind of had to guess. The numbers that Cedar City sent me were right down to the account level with an address, and so they've kept really good records. I feel that number is probably a pretty good number. Jason Norris at the city was able to get me some really good information that I felt good about. I haven't actually seen proof of the difference between 64 and 67, but I know their process, and I expected it to increase, and so that seems to be good as well. So Cedar has been good to work with. We've kind of been a little bit at cross goals with this process. It was a little stressful there for a little bit as we were trying to figure it out. But I do believe that amount is good. We are both in agreement that we should get those back. Now therefores, and I just want to make sure you guys know what you're agreeing to. The number 1 on the now therefore says that we are reaffirming our commitment to the 2004 agreements, and no amendments to these agreements are desired. So we're basically saying with this, we're good to just keep things the status quo with all the agreements that we have. This is kind of I don't know if I would call it a negotiated position. I don't know, and John can weigh in on this. He's got some opinions as well. The way things read right now is we collect what Cedar City, their billing rate for their sewer customers, whatever that rate is, we collect from our customers and remit to them. We also remit to them any connection fees that they require. We do not remit to them anymore the sewer lift station fees, and we're getting those back. We will retain those. We will hold them. And when we have a capital maintenance event, which is what the old agreements say, of $5,000 or more, then that's on us. The problem is and it's good to get this money back, but $67,000, we just spent $35,000 just to do that one sewer lift station upgrade. And that's a rough number. I don't know, remember, but it was more than $30,000. So
does it
we don't
stay
have
in
a
a
huge
special account, or does it just stay in the?
It's in the
general
fund balance of the sewer company.
Okay.
It's in the sewer company.
Sewer
it's not
company.
going anywhere. We don't have any other use for any fund balance. So I could create an accounting mechanism to hold it, and there's no need to, because it's not like it's intermixing with any other funds. So it's not that big of a deal. The problem is we're not setting any money aside for a sinking fund for anything else, for any other future large capital maintenance items. And this is only collected one time. So, and we've talked about that, do we want to do something moving forward where we can create a sinking fund? Either
be ongoing
is
what you're saying.
And in the negotiations with Cedar City, when we very first started talking, we kind of floated a couple of ideas. We said, well, maybe we could pay more of a wholesale rate approach or something, and then that would give us some money to work with. Cedar City really doesn't like that idea at all. They're pretty much, other than like these large capital maintenance events, they see our system like their system. If you talk to their main operator, he doesn't see boundaries. He just fixes stuff. Like, for example, during the floods, he was out there night and day working on with his sewer vacuum truck, opening up for Equestrian Point. I mean, not for Equestrian Point, but for Flying L. The sewer system kept getting plugged, and he kept clearing that thing out. And he's like, I don't see this any different than my system. When we start arguing over agreements, I start to get a little bit frustrated, and I start counting costs and things like that. So this is a really good solution for our short-term problem, which was dealing with that sewer lift station maintenance event. It isn't a long-term fix for future capital expenditures. If we have, polyethylene pipe doesn't degrade when it's in the ground. We don't know. There's not good numbers because it's a fairly new thing, and they say if it's not exposed to the sun, it'll sit there for a long time. The problem is what if it settles? You got to dig it up and replace it. That pipe may be fine, but it's not functioning, and so it has to be replaced. We have no financial mechanism for it. So do we collect an additional fee, or do we collect $1 larger of a monthly fee than Cedar does and keep that extra $1 and not send it through? Our current agreement would allow us to do that.
We could do that.
It's a fairness issue. Is that fair to those customers? That's one option. The other option is to try to negotiate with Cedar City to take less than their full fee, and I see Cedar City pushing back on that pretty hard. So this is basically reaffirming our commitment to that original agreement.
We've been talking about this for a while.
Yeah.
What are you thinking, Dan? When do you want to do this? We probably ought to maybe have a meeting and
there's two schools of thought. One, we put this money in the bank, it draws interest. It's slowly going to grow. Every time we have a new connection, that's in a lift station area. And everybody met. I was in the middle of a different meeting, so I wasn't there. But Reed and John and Chanel, can't remember who else was there, met to talk about the logistics of us remitting fees and when we charge them, when we don't. We need to make sure we're charging every new home that is on part of the sewer system that uses a lift station. We need to make sure we're at least getting that one-time fee from them. Cedar City has been the one that's told us in the past. Maybe John can weigh in on that.
So, yeah, it's not going to be a significant amount of money, but one of the changes that came out of that was we do what Cedar City tells us, and they have determinations, and there was some learning on their end as far as being consistent about when a fee is charged and exactly which subdivisions maybe ought to be charged. The lift station fee, there was Peak View and a few that were kind of a revelation to the person running it. But one of the things that they charge is a lateral connection fee. And that
Which doesn't really apply to this, because we just forward that on to Cedar City.
Well, yeah, but one of the things that came out of it was, one, we couldn't figure out when they were charging that. Like, the logic that they gave us was that if it's connected to some of their infrastructure, and the way it had been applied didn't make sense because they had done some in like Monarch Meadows, which technically that's all stuff that would be our responsibility. And
on the other hand, they're still it's to pay for that connection.
Yeah,
happening?
But some were charged, some weren't.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and one, so all that is to say, on some of those, basically, if Cedar City asks for it, we're going to transfer it to them. If not, we're going to actually levy that fee, and some of that will go toward our sinking fund. But I think it's $125 a connection. It's not a significant amount. But
I think we'd want to check. It's $150, and I think we'd want to check with Cedar City because I think the agreement says that we will forward that in every case. So we want to look at.
We want to make sure we're in the right. Anyway, that was one of the discussions we had, and it was going to be a procedural change. Only that right now we only charge it when they tell us to, and it always goes to them. And we thought that might be one way to recapture a little bit of a sinking fund there to try and maintain some of those lines. We didn't feel like it was going to be super significant, but that was.
So are we still going to be looking for their telling us that we need to charge a lift station fee? I mean, can't we? Don't we know which subdivisions they are? And
we do.
Because they're kind of out of that game when it comes to telling us what to collect and remit to them when it comes to lift station fees.
Right, and
so I don't know if we want to use them to rely upon.
So one of the things that we did was we actually met with them, and they spent some time on a conference call with us during that meeting, and just reminding them that, Peak View, and I can't remember, there was a Bullock one and another that all kind of feed to that lift station. It's actually not that complicated, so we were able to kind of pin it down. It was a few of those, and then one of a minor lot subdivision on the east there. But and then the other question was, do any of the other lift station that we're responsible for, which is to say over in Westview, how many of those feed into that? And it was simple enough that we felt like we had them. What we have done and what we felt like we would continue to do is let them tell us, but we just reminded them which ones
apply.
Yeah.
So back to what I was saying, there's two schools of thought. We do have this source of money that comes in one time, and it's going to sit there, it's going to grow. And its purpose is to pay for lift station fee stuff. It probably wouldn't be that appropriate if you had to replace a part of the main line that is our main line owned. So it would be within a subdivision like Monarch if we had to replace a section of line there. I don't know how appropriate it would be to use lift station fee money to do that. And so you then don't have anything. We would have to basically go, and the sewer company would then borrow money, do the repair, and then charge an additional fee to then make the payment on that. Or if you have a sinking fund, that's the whole point of the sinking fund, is you have this chunk of money sitting there to do maintenance on.
What would we have to do this sinking fee?
We would have to either, one, charge an additional amount above and beyond Cedar City's monthly fee, or B.
And that comes to us through.
It comes to us.
Yeah,
so say we collect $32 and we have to remit to them $29. Then we're going to collect that extra
little bit
$3, and it's going to grow in an account. Or we try to renegotiate with Cedar City to pay a lesser fee than they're charging. And I'm telling you that I don't know how likely Cedar is going to be to accept that. This agreement is kind of saying, yeah, we're going to stick with those past agreements, and we agree that no amendments to this agreement are desired. So I'm saying if we want to try and go and negotiate with Cedar City to pay a lesser rate, we ought to not sign this. But that puts us right back to where we started a year ago when we were at odds with it.
And this is where I have heartburn, because you can either remit less to Cedar City or charge our customers more. But our customers pay the exact same amount as Cedar City residents. And so we're either saying, well, because we're county, we're just going to have to pay more. We're not a price maker. We have to have that sinking fund. Therefore, we're going to pass that cost along to our customers. Or we remit less to Cedar City. But if we try to do that involves renegotiating the contract. And expressly what they wanted to talk about with this was that we have no interest in renegotiating the contract. And so my concern is it's easy to slide into this and let our customers take the brunt of it. And that's my worry.
But we don't have a lot of leverage with Cedar City because we're basically
at their mercy.
We're their customer. And
so for us to say we demand that you let us pay a wholesale rate, they're going to say, okay, no. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of where we're at. We are connected to the same system, but we're a different company. We have different costs and a different cost structure. We can go around all day long as to what's fair and what's appropriate. By the way, if we were to pay a higher fee, I am one of those people that would pay a higher fee because I'm on the county sewer system. So
also, I'm a Cedar City customer. So
I'm not trying to advocate that that's the case, but so we can sign this and we can move on. We have at least solved the immediate problem. The long-term problem is hypothetical. And are we going to prepare for it by charging our customers a little extra or negotiating with Cedar City? I don't know. But that's a political decision, and hence why I bring it up. But I do want to point out that it says in this MOU that no amendments are desired. And if we wanted to negotiate for a lower rate, then that's not a true statement.
And that monies that we're using for the lift, we can't use for other purposes, right?
Well, we can. They're not legally restricted.
We don't call them an impact fee like others, do we?
An impact fee would be an incorrect term.
Yeah, that's an impact fee has a whole different set of rules.
This is similar to a connection fee.
Cedar sewer system and unincorporated is $750, right?
What's that?
It's $750.
That's the impact fee. We haven't even talked about those.
Okay. So this is just the lift.
It's for the
station.
There's three fees.
County.
There's a lateral connection fee, and that's $150. That's the cost of literally connecting a house to the line in the street. And that's charged, even though the customer is required to do that. That fee is to reimburse the entity for the time spent to have to come out and inspect it and check it out and make sure that the contractor connected up to their standard and all that stuff. That's generally what that fee is collected for. So whoever has to go out and do that inspection and look at that connection and everything is the entity that should properly be receiving it. I don't know what our agreement says. I think our agreement says we'll submit all of those to them because I think typically they've been the one doing that unless our building inspectors are doing it. And then we could make the argument that we should keep it in those cases. Then there's the $450 lift station fee, and that's because customers that connect that have to have a lift station that has to be manned and pumped. That's additional infrastructure that's a burden on the system for that subdivision. So we charge a fee to that subdivision so that lift station can be maintained and
by the way, I think we have two
operated.
of about 7 lift stations on the whole system.
And to be fair to Cedar,
responsibility.
Those lift stations have an operational cost, not just a maintenance cost, but they have actually a power bill because there's a pump inside there.
If I lived in a subdivision that had a lift station, and it required me to pay a few bucks a month more to maintain that, I would be more than happy.
Right.
Because if you ever had sewage in your basement, it's no fun.
You want to make sure that thing is not only operating but well maintained. So it's my personal opinion. I think that we signed this MOU. I think we've gotten to a good place with Cedar City. I think that we should really consider some long-term sinking fund options.
Yeah.
And the very last part is it says that, well, it says, first of all, we'll invoice them and they'll pay us when they get their budget adjusted. And that this MOU will settle all conflicts relative to the collection and payment of lift station upgrade fees, which is what we want to do. And I think they've been good to work with on this. So,
Okay. Did we get a motion?
I'll make that motion to accept the MOU with Cedar City Corporation in regards to the remittance of past lift station fees collected by Iron County and remitted to Cedar City.
Mike, I think you got some.
Can you go ahead and second, Mike?
He said I'll second.
Did he?
Oh, I couldn't hear that either.
I'll second.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Perfect. Okay, we will move on, and the chair will call to convene as the Iron County Community Development and Renewal Agency, and Danny Stewart will talk about our solar.
Thank you, Commissioners. These three agenda items, 9, 10, and 11, they're all basically the same. They're just broken down by who the companies are that we're talking about. So each year, I come before this group with those companies who have submitted the information per their agreement with the Community Development Renewal Agency that they've met their requirements to qualify for reimbursement per the incentive that's in place. So each of these that you see on items 9, 10, and 11 have met that requirement. They submitted their request prior to April 1st. They provided documentation that showed that they paid their taxes, that they were operational full-time, and that met any other obligations according to those agreements that we have. So I'm coming before you today just to report that I have reviewed all of the submissions from each of these companies. Each of them have met the requirements per our development agreements, and they should all qualify for their reimbursements.
Okay.
So are we handling all three of these agenda items at once, or?
Yeah, how should we do
However
that?
you'd like to
Can
do
we?
that.
Can we do that?
Do
Yeah.
we need to read the amounts from this email Dan sent us, or do we need to enter that into the record?
You know, I would.
Okay.
Now there's one that's missing, and it's Iron Springs.
Okay.
So I don't have that amount.
Okay. All right.
But everything else is done. And then Dan, thank you for sending that.
So I would just step in. We've been doing this for a few years, and our council has talked about the fact that in many municipalities this actually doesn't even happen. And so I think Iron County does a great job staying on top of this. Danny's fantastic, and it kind of brings it front of mind. We're talking about quite a bit of money that is going to move back to these developers based on their agreements, and so the amounts are good. I don't know that they're necessary, but so if we're missing the one, I think it's probably okay. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, per the state statute, this is a step that we added as Iron County because of the amounts of money that we're dealing with, that I bring this to you and show that they've met those requirements, but whatever you feel like is necessary.
Okay. Yeah, I think we probably do you want to just
I'll make
do that?
I'll make a motion if it's okay to just basically approve the tax increment reimbursement for Iron Springs, and I'll read them off here, but for items 9, 10, and 11, there was a Granite Mountain Solar East for $783,325.23. Granite Mountain Solar West for $509,193.23. Enterprise Solar for $745,876.45. Sun Edison $74,689.44 Burrell Solar $25,222.22. Buckhorn Solar $28,096.47. Cedar Valley Solar $25,947.92. Fiddler's Canyon $54,520.04, and they were missing Iron Springs. Is that the one we're missing?
No, we're actually missing Red Hills, Iron Springs, Three Peaks, Cove Mountain, 1 and 2.
1 and 2. Those are I've got that.
Qualify.
Still needed.
Oh, Iron Springs. I didn't see it on the list of things today.
They were this one here.
Oh, I can go get it. It'd take me just 2 seconds, or I can give it to.
The only requirement for them is to have applied by April 1st, so we can put it on the
We're going to have to apply. We're going to have to do the next ones anyways.
So we could you can give that to John to have him inserted in the record.
Do these others, we can do Iron Springs, yeah. I didn't notice that.
And the only requirement is that they apply by April 1st.
Okay.
So
they
if
got a
we're
little
into the
bit
next meeting,
more
it's
anyway.
okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
So we're basically approving agenda items 9 through 11 with that information that I stated, and with the other to be entered into the record when Dan gets it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Because he'll enter that final amount into the record after the fact.
Yeah.
So can we get a second for Mike? If he's there.
He's still muted.
Oh. Well, I'll second it.
Okay.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Danny.
you, Danny.
We will reconvene as the Iron County Commission, and we'll have Jennifer come up and do our personnel. And we'll do all these together, too, if that's okay.
You're okay with that? I'll just keep going until you stop me.
Yep.
Thank you. In the Sheriff's Office Patrol, Ryan Turk has completed all but one requirement needed for promotion. As requested by the Sheriff, with your consideration, he will move from a Deputy 1 to an interim Deputy 2 effective 4/3 of 2022. Also in the Sheriff's Office Patrol, Dean Montaleone was selected from the most recent competitive recruiting and interview process to backfill the vacant full-time Deputy 1 position effective April 4th, 2022. And then in the Attorney's Office, I've submitted in your commission packet for your consideration a new job description, which is a Deputy Attorney Public Information Officer. This new job description will incorporate the training and education of an attorney with the beneficial Public Information Officer element when speaking to the media on county-related matters. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those, but if not, I can go into the next one. In the Attorney's Office, for your consideration with the guidance and recommendation of County Attorney Chad Dotson, we are seeking approval for a job reclassification for Trajan Evans from a Deputy Attorney 3 to a Deputy Attorney 3 Public Information Officer effective April 3rd, 2022. And then on Council on Aging, Soraya Thurston was selected from the most recent competitive recruiting and interview process to backfill the vacant part-time Parowan Activities Director, effective March 28th, 2022. And then in the Fire Department, Fire Warden Ryan Riddle is seeking funding to create procedures and policy manual from Lexipool, who has created and maintains our patrol and corrections manuals. Not corrections, I apologize. Thanks for... the request is to prepare for and anticipate for future growth in the Iron County Fire Department. The total cost to create and maintain this manual is $3,416 per year. And the request today is to seek funding to cover this first year, and then in the future it's anticipated to be incorporated into their budget hearings going forward. And he's here to answer any questions if you have any. And then last on the calendar for your consideration is to amend and update Section 24 in Iron County Policies and Procedures Manual. We've been tracking the progress of June 19th holiday, which the United States declared a national holiday in 2021. And a few weeks ago, the state of Utah amended House Bill 238, recognizing June 19th as a state holiday. With the state of Utah making this declaration, all Utah Justice Courts, DMV offices, and many programming systems have notified us that they will be closing operations in observance of this holiday. So I'm seeking approval to include this additional holiday into Section 24 of policy, as well as add some verbiage on the Christmas Eve schedule as approved during the last budget hearing, and then a few wording corrections. And then if you have any questions for those, I'm here to answer.
Good. Ryan, do you want to address that?
Yeah, my pleasure. It was brought to my attention after an incident recently that the Burrell and Newcastle Fire Department do not have any policy and procedure manuals in place. As you know, that's not good business and puts the county at risk. And so I did some research on it, and as Jennifer mentioned before, the Sheriff's Department is using Lexipool, as well as the local fire departments here within Iron County, Cedar City, Bryan Head, such, are using that same program. That program is based off of how many people are employed. Volunteers are considered a 0.1, part-time is a 0.5, and of course full-time is a 1. And so up to 50 full-time employees is the minimum charge, and that's where the funding comes from. They quoted me based off of how many volunteers that Newcastle and Burrell Fire Department have, and of course the part-time staffing. The minimum is 3,416, which will remain the same until we have the equivalent of 50 full-time personnel. So that will likely stay the same for several years.
Okay.
And so it's just.
So is that something that you is in your budget, or are we going to have to do an amendment?
I can cover it in my budget as long as you guys are okay with me spending it out of my budget, because it was not a line item.
Okay. I think we're okay.
That was
with
$3,416.
That's correct.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 12, and that consists of A, B, C, D, and E, as outlined by Jennifer, and just to mention with Ryan's explanation of the funding to pay for Lexapool to create the Iron County Fire Department Policy Procedures Manual of cost of $3,416.
Okay. Very good.
I'll second.
Oh, very good.
I had no audio for a minute, but now I do again.
Yeah,
so John got it fixed.
Very good.
Not sure what happened.
Moved and seconded. Do I have aye?
Aye.
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 It's approved.
Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Jennifer. We've got any prairie dog matters. The county board, we're in the planning. I need a motion to approve Eric Cox. Mike, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll move to approve Eric Cox as a new member on the planning commission, and just make note that we were lacking representation from the south area of the county, such as Westview Drive, Canaryville, that sort of area. That's the reasoning behind.
That will
Mr.
take care of
Cox
that.
is his geographical location.
Oh, very good.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, very good. All right. Unless there's anything else, we will adjourn. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.